Hello, everybody. Hello, listeners. This is Big Mike here, also known as Cities256. You may be wondering why I'm opening the podcast today instead of John. Well, unfortunately, it's not on good circumstances as I am in the editing studio. A lot of the files were corrupted during the download of each individual's recording. Due to this, we have lost one of our guests completely, also known as Elliot, or Diddley Squatch, and another one, also known as Ethan, or Green Tiger. Apologies have been sent to both about this. You may hear a reference to Elliot once or twice because there are parts that are detrimental to the podcast where his name is dropped or spoken to, including the curse segment. Would love to hear about that. Can't wait for the curse. Love to hear what everybody thinks about that. He deserves credit for bringing this up. I usually state that I strive for the highest quality, but I was not able to meet that expectation today. I thought we were in the direction we needed to go in the sense of quality, and we're getting better and figured out a lot of this, and then a few things made the quality regress, in a sense, at this time. I want to keep the former promise of reaching for perfection, as we are still what I believe are amateurs, and eventually strive to get into more professionalism with the podcast. Also, it may seem as though I'm not here for half the podcast. This is completely untrue, as I am here right now, at the beginning. I'm going to blame the reason that I was not here at the beginning of the first half of the podcast on the fact that a lot of my recording was also lost. Yeah, we'll go with that. Has nothing to do with me sleeping through my alarm because I didn't have the volume on high enough. Not at all. Did not sleep through the important alarm. Not the alarm for one of the biggest episodes we have to date. Nope, not that at all. In fact, I was there the whole time. I'm pretty good at impersonations. You guys want to hear my impersonation of John?
All right. Well, welcome to Defender Resolves First, an unmatched podcast. Today I'll be your host, Tommy Elliott. John. Normally, my great co-host Mike will join us at Cities256, but we've got a huge blizzard here in North Dakota. Mike's been pulling some long hours working at the hospital, and I do believe that he is snowed in, sleeping right now. So I'm going to be handling this one. We're doing it live, as Prospero said earlier. So this is episode 1 of 3 of our grand tournament recap. The tournament that we are recapping is the Winter of Champions. It just wrapped up last week at the time of the recording. This is our first episode where we're really excited. We're bringing back all of the guests that we've had on for the first 5 episodes who all played in the tournament. We're going to kind of catch back up with them and see what happened throughout the tournament. Tomorrow, you guys will get an episode with some new voices, folks who have never been on the podcast, to share some exciting stories. And then the day after, we have a tournament organizer roundtable where we'll talk with the TOs, and we'll just kind of hear what they thought about the tournament, how they thought it went, and what the future of tournaments in the competitive scene could hold. So, with that out of the way, we're really excited to have you guys, and we have quite the guest list today, and we're doing it all in a roundtable discussion. So everybody I introduced to you guys, they are all here right now. We're not doing separate recordings. This could get a little chaotic, but we think that that's some of the spice. So from our first episode, Chatting with Champions, we've got Green Tiger, Ethan. How's it going?
That should be me. I'm good.
All right. Well, happy to have you back. Then from episode 2, the big 3, we've got Pommedepin. Jacob, how's it going?
Going all right.
The Medusa Slayer, who came on our podcast, and 3 days after we had an episode about him never banning Medusa, he banned Medusa. So that was a real feather in our cap. You love to see it, I guess. Also joining us is Prospero. Jeremiah, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great.
Well, happy to have you back. Last time you were here, we got into some really fun analytics, which to date, I think has actually been the most informative 20 minutes of the podcast. So excited to have you back. Then from the Beowulf episode, we've got my Bayo bro, Mr. Baked Goods. How's it going, Mr. Goods?
Amazing. You love to see it. I'm so happy to be back on the podcast, John.
Yeah, we are hashtag blessed to have you. Dream Carver could not make it tonight, so we'll pour one out from him from our golden drinking horn, and we'll move on to the Unmatched League episode. We've got Mr. Chadicular, Dadicular. Last time you were on, I made some awful pun about calling what you want, but not being late for the podcast. I won't do it here. I'm embarrassed I made the callback. Chad, how's it going?
Hey, it's going well. You know, I've
becoming a new father has made me start needing to pull dad jokes from all different kinds of sources and areas and stuff like that. So I definitely wrote yours down immediately after you said it. So we're all good. Don't even worry about it.
I know you meant it as a compliment, but it is an insult. So it's really great to have everybody here. Thanks for joining. We might be talking over each other. We might be having some laughs, some fun. I just kind of want to start, Chad, with you, even though you were the last one introduced. There's like some symmetry there, maybe. I don't know, anti-symmetry. So you made it all the way to the finals. I'd love to know how you feel about the outcome of that.
Yeah, well, the outcome of making it to the finals, super happy with. The outcome that occurred during the finals, not as happy with. Obviously, my goal in any competitive scene is if I don't win, make it to a game 5 or game 3, whatever the situation is. So never get 2-0'd, that's my goal, and then never get 3-0'd if it isn't a best of 5. And unfortunately, that is what happened. I did have 2 close games, which, makes me feel better. Especially the second one. I definitely thought I had a shot at winning that one. The Wukong Yanega one took a turn for the worse, and it almost actually came back in my favor, which I'm sure was exciting to watch. But, I've thought a lot about that game, and there were definitely some critical mistakes I made there. But all things considered, John is an excellent player, and I think I played fairly well. Definitely my pick ban, and my hidden picks for game 1 definitely could have used some work just to help me out a little bit better. But I'm definitely happy to make it to grand finals, and because of this, it's forcing me to have to play in the next tournament and hopefully get my tournament win there. So,
all right, yeah,
more unmatched.
That was my next question. Was going to be, well, are you coming back? I mean, you made it so far. You got to come back, right?
Absolutely.
Did anybody else on right now make top 16? Not top 8, but 16 for foil prize?
I baked goods. Me talking. I was 12th, so just barely made top 16.
Just barely would be 15, but you were
bottom
12.
4 or 5, I guess, of the top 16. So
bottom 4. What a humble way of saying top 12 in a 128-person tournament. Okay, so you guys who made the top 16, what foils do you think you want to do?
I think it's no shock to anyone that I'm taking Bloody Mary. I think that's pretty clear.
Right.
I wanted to choose foils that generally mean something to me, and I had 2 incredibly close games with Chocolate Rain when we chose no big 3 with Robin Hood. So I really wanted to choose Robin Hood's foil, but that was not made available to us at this time for those at top 16. So because of that, I went, for my girl, Bloody Mary.
Cool. What about you, Baked?
There wasn't really a fighter that I wanted a foil from super badly. I know for Summer of Legends, I got Little Red's foil. And based on the list that they sent at this time, I chose the foil for Dracula. I don't know. I don't think they want us revealing what cards were the options right now, but let's just say
probably not.
I saw the name of the card and I was like, "Ooh, that probably would be pretty spicy." So yeah, I think it'll look cool.
What an exciting tease, man. Okay. Well, a Defender Resolves first exclusive. The Dracula card is spicy, whatever it may be for the foil. Yep. You heard it here first, folks. Another exciting addition to our rounds of exclusives.
So.
Okay. All right. Another exclusive. We're racking them up. How many more can we get this episode? Pommedepin, I made a joke earlier, Jacob, about you choosing to ban Medusa right after our episode aired. So I'd love to talk to you about that a little bit. What was the thought process there? I mean, we just put this episode out and everybody now is like thinking of you as the guy who doesn't do it. And then you did it. So, I mean, was that like a strategy play? Like he wasn't expecting it or what were you thinking about that?
After we picked our fighters, I was against Zero Skater, who's to win it all, so I knew I had to play smart against him. And he had Medusa, Little Red, and Bigfoot on his side. I had Sherlock, Yanenga, and Achilles on my side.
Hmm.
So I was looking at it, and it's like Medusa is the best one for me to ban just looking at my fighters. I feel decent with everyone against Bigfoot, and I felt pretty good with all of them against Red since those were all the most like matchups I've played the most. So all of that time of me deciding what to do for my ban was me trying to justify a reason not to ban Medusa, and I just could not find one.
I mean, reputation, perhaps.
Yeah, that was the only reason that made me think about it, but ultimately I could not make that decision.
Hmm. What say you, panelists? I don't know.
I just wanted to say, I thought you won that pick ban. I think you did an extremely good pick ban, and I think you put him on the back foot there. Obviously, it's Zero, so his skill came into play, and he's just an extremely talented player. But I just wanted to congratulate you on the pick ban because you definitely, I think, put him on the back foot, and it was definitely a good pick ban in your favor. I think.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's what my takeaway had been from that experience is like I definitely felt confident when that phase was over. Just the games didn't go my way.
Yeah, I think if we figured out anything when facing Zero is that, well, one, I think this tournament, just the stats in general, has shown Medusa Yanenga is a really close match, and that it's a really, but specifically for Zero, he knows that match forward and backwards both sides, and if you can avoid that matchup against Zero, you should probably try to do that.
Wow. You'll love to see the camaraderie on the panel. I opened it up for some spicy gossiping, and everybody was like, nah, Pom, you got this. You're the man. Love it. That's what I love about this community. Prospero, since you just chimed in there a minute. So there was some spicy talk in the Discord the other day about a global Sherlock ban. And if I recall correctly, you were pretty in favor of this. I'd love to hear some thoughts on it now that we've wrapped this tournament, because I know that this tournament specifically, is influencing your thought process there.
Sure. I mean, I may have been a little bit over opinionated just about several issues over the last few days on the Discord. I have to vent somewhere. Maybe I get a little competitive with these tournaments, and when I failed to even make top 16. But you know what? I have to set my own personal goals, and now I feel like Bug Hunter is officially my arch nemesis, and being able to pull a win against Bug in such a dramatic fashion this tournament, I feel like makes it worth it for me. But that being said, as far as the global Sherlock ban goes, I wasn't necessarily a proponent of a global Sherlock ban in general. I was just pointing out statistically how anomalous it's just Sherlock seems at our level of play strong.
Right.
When you look when you look at some competitive games, like I'm going to use professional League of Legends because that's what I follow the most.
Yeah.
You can take the global scores of a champion to do some analysis, but that's not what you need to do when you're talking about tournaments. The global scores of a champion aren't really going to help you. And in this case, not even all of Sherlock's stats. I think we need to focus down on what are the top 20, what are the top 30 doing with Sherlock, because that's where Sherlock is scariest. In hands that know what they're doing and who know the matchups, Zero's not excluded in this case.
Right.
Sherlock seems fairly unbeatable. Like I was literally talking. My strategy going into it was to beat Sherlock, was because I knew Zero would pick it. Because if you look at Zero's pick ban, basically he had a tier list: Sherlock, Medusa, Yanenga, and then Red or Bigfoot, depending on what the opponent picked. If the opponent got Yanenga, he went Red, and then sometimes Wukong, maybe Achilles. That was his tier list. If option A was gone, he went to option B. If option B was gone, and he always wanted to be leader, and he always wanted Sherlock, and he won the tournament. That I'm not saying that that's necessarily like definitive proof there, but it shouldn't necessarily be ignored. And even Zero was chiming in going, he doesn't think Sherlock is unbeatable. He doesn't think he's that strong, but he still picked him every time, given the opportunity. So I wasn't a proponent of a global Sherlock ban. I actually would be more along the lines of pre-pick bans. So bans before the picks, and then maybe bans after also. But I think pre-pick bans is a good way as the roster grows. Things you just don't want to deal with, and it allows you to then have the option to pick during the conquest, an option to have a ban. Because as the argument was going in the Discord, it really just talked about how whoever picks Sherlock, you either have to build your entire thing to counter your enemy's Sherlock, or your ban is chosen for you, and the leader essentially gets to counter pick all your picks because they can just ban your last pick. And so now they've got the advantage that follower would normally get.
Right.
But that, again, that's just my opinion following different competitive game scenes. I don't know if that would be the best idea. I don't actually know the numbers of the highest Sherlock stuff. But, if you want to get into the spicy discussions, frankly, I'd rather have that one than the other spicy discussion that we were having.
Oh yeah, no, that was a disaster. Anybody listening probably already knows. We not today. No, we're not getting into that. Okay, so for our listeners who can't see us, when Prospero brought up the idea of pre-pick bans, several of us on camera were fist bumping, me included. So I'd love to throw that one out to the panel because it seems like kind of a popular thought. But then again, Baked Goods is frowning, so maybe not. So yeah, let's hear it. I like the idea of pre-pick bans, and as Prospero kind of talked about, the roster is going to get so big that a pre-pick ban would actually, to me, make more sense. In conjunction with a post ban too, but it's not like we have a limited roster where you're killing off such a significant portion of options by doing it. What say you?
I think
I should just note that Taylor is contractually obligated to disagree with me, so you shouldn't take too much into that.
Okay.
Sorry, Green Tiger, I interrupted you.
Okay. I think I have two problems with pre-pick ban. Number one would be the amount of time, because it's not like with the post ban where you have to choose between 3 characters, so you just have to think about all 3 of them. Like, what's their strategy going to be is just, I have to consider every individual character in the game. Like, who should I pre-pick ban? Should I be Sherlock or should I be Spike? There are many options. You don't know what you're going to pick. And that's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah, definitely equal weight considered in Spike and Sherlock.
No, but that is a really good point.
Yeah, and then point 2 you were making, Green Tiger?
A moment I forgot about it. Oh yeah, with as many fighters as going to be, yeah, I forgot completely. It's gone.
Sorry, I cut you off. That's my bad.
It's alright.
But Chad, you looked like you were in favor though. Thoughts?
Yeah, so I will just preface this by saying the TOs have had an incredibly hard job, in my opinion, with their desire for these tournaments. Is they want to create not only tournaments that are extremely balanced and have a balanced format, but also one that just allows for fun. And at the competitive level, with at the top level, I think a lot of us are like, just give us what's most balanced, right? We'll play whoever, just give us who's. But a lot of people, I think, especially in the 103 person tournament, maybe expanding to more, right? They want to play the fighters they want to play, right? At the end of the day, right, I want to play Bloody Mary as much as I can, right? And if my opponent's picking Yanenga, perfect, right? My day is made for me. If my opponent picks Little Red, I'm happy as well. But if, say, in the meta later, I wasn't able to pick Bloody Mary and do well with her, given the fighter picks, maybe she didn't have any counters, right? That'd be a bummer for me if I wasn't, just like, I'll play whoever just to do well. So I just want to preface this by saying I think maybe pre-pick bans would be a more balanced, or would allow for more interesting strategic decisions to be made. And I'm basically saying, okay, I'm going to pre-ban, Zero's Yanenga, right? Or, a lot of people could do that. Or I could say, I'm comfortable with my Yanenga counter, so I'm going to leave her on the table and ban Sherlock. Or, Prospero's never going to ever see Muldoon play. So there are options there, and I think there could be more strategy built into that, and I'm all for that. But from the TO standpoint, right? If you always get your fighter banned out from under you, whoever it may be, whether it's the smartest choice for a pre-pick ban or not, I don't know. There's some feeling of fun I think you are removing. At least at the low, not at like top 16 or even, top 56 or whatever it may be, maybe even throughout the whole tournament. Right. For example, Chocolate Rain did really well this tournament with Wukong. Kind of upset any negative matchup with Wukong. He chose Wukong into Yanenga, chose Wukong into Robin Hood, and still did really well with him. If I'm going up against him, I'm just going to be like, all right, no Wukong for you. And I think that's kind of just a feels bad moment. So even though I think strategically I might appreciate it, to Green Tiger's point, I think it would take longer and maybe take away some of the fun from something else. And that's a pretty big decision that the TOs have to make when they're analyzing tournament formats.
Man, we got a little column A and a little column B there from Chad. You love to see it. Chad brings up an interesting point about this whole concept of, these tournaments are designed not just for strategy, but for fun. Do you think that we might be moving forward with separate organized play events more geared towards one or the other? And I asked this because in the Discord the other day, folks were talking about maybe doing qualifiers and having smaller tournaments with more strategic players. We have the ladder going on, which is like a really great balance, leaning more towards fun than strategy. We have Joshua setting up a new kind of team-based format, which will be really cool. But there is, I think, like an explosion about to happen in terms of competitive play format. So do you think that we might be seeing a stronger dichotomy between fun and strategy? I saw Baked Goods kind of perk up because Baked, your pie chart is insane. You have all of the fighters. Yes. You play all of them all the time.
I think in Summer of Legends, I picked like 13 different fighters, and at the time, there were only like 19 available. That was something that I kind of prided myself on, was my variety. So I just love using a wide amount of fighters. I'm not like Pom here, who picked Sherlock, Bigfoot, Little Red every single time in Summer of Legends, but... Yeah, I think that's a great point that Elliot brings up, because that, I guess, style of play, of just playing a bunch of different people, is certainly something that I think a lot of people enjoy about this game, because there are a lot of different play styles. I do think, however, there are people that like playing the same fighters every time, and they like, especially like the top end of the tier list. Like, I know TDC Jason, he really likes Big Three, Dracula, Sinbad, and like he'll play them every single time. And I think that's also fine. It's just whatever you like. There's a lot of different ways to enjoy the game.
Yeah. It looks like friends, our co-host, Mike, Sidious256, has joined us. Mike, hello.
Hey, how's it going? Things happen in life, and one of them is bad sleep schedules. So we're here now, though.
Hey, well, we're happy to have you. I've let everybody know about our North Dakota blizzard, how we're all snowed in, and how you've been working a little extra because of it. So we were excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. I apologize for being so late. But, yeah, the blizzards do happen also. It is rough out there if you haven't known. One last good old North Dakota hoorah, I guess.
Well, glad to have you. I know I was kind of, I wanted you to be on because Elliot has something that he's calling the curse of Defender Resolves First that he kind of wanted to bring up. I just want to be clear for the panelists, Elliot. I just want to clarify what you're saying. You're saying the majority of people come on our show and then immediately after coming on our show lose their match.
Well, we're never going to get anybody else on this show again. It's been a pleasure.
I mean,
Looks like this is
I
the
did-
end of Defender Resolves First.
To be fair, I did win my next match after I went on. I lost my match to Elliot. I won my next match, but if it makes you feel better, I lost the next 3 matches. So that could help you, Chris. Theory.
That'll count. That'll count.
I will say,
Okay.
I've been looking for something to blame other than myself for grand finals. So this is definitely super helpful, Elliot. So I appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah, thinking about it, I actually don't think I've won a competitive match since coming on your show. Because I got my win against Bug and then lost the rest.
It's been real, guys.
Put me on again.
We had a good run, John. We had a good run.
You need to formally invite Zero Skater on the show because he just showed up, and I guess that doesn't count. You need to
That's true.
Pom, did
That's true.
you lost right after, right?
Yep, right after I went on the pod, I won that pick ban phase and got destroyed by Zero Skater. And if you want to just blame Zero, not the pod, my next week I saw the absolute worst luck I have ever seen in the game of Unmatched, where my starting hand for Little Red against Medusa had 3 baskets and multiple blue defenses, which left me basically nothing to attack with or get any use of my effects. And all of the knife effects were at the very bottom of my deck. So I was trying to play against Medusa with blank 2s. Fun fact, it doesn't work.
Well, Bake, do you want to rescue us here?
No, I came on your podcast March 21st. I lost my next match on March 24th, and then lost again the week after that. So, the proof is in the pudding, as they say.
Huh. Well,
Have we
I
warned
accept-
the people, the new ones in the next set, the people who haven't been on the podcast yet? Have they been warned?
No, and you know what? They won't be. It's that we can't have this. Oh no, this is terrible. Well,
Do we need to let like a pause in here for Mike to just easily cut out all that he just said for you guys to kind of like protect everyone?
yeah, I don't know, Mike. If we can let the curse of Defender Resolves First get out, this could be the end of us.
Well, maybe it's a curse for them, but I like exploiting them. Maybe I just have to get every single one of my opponents on Defender Resolves First before their match, and then just see how well this curse goes. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm saying if there's a way to exploit my wins, I'm going to exploit my wins.
Oh,
To be fair, he
This
did
is
beat me
bad.
in the tournament, so it's definitely
Oh,
the fault.
it's
of the
true. Hold
podcast.
on, we have
Not
direct
because I didn't
advance.
shut off.
I did beat.
Wait,
Oh man.
Ethan, was your match against Mike your very next match?
No.
After the
I played against,
podcast?
no, I played against another guy. I got off a 9 damage Excalibur. Then
Ooh.
my match with Mike came.
That was one of the most greediest matches I've ever played in my life. The King Arthur and Bigfoot. I never thought it would be close, and I was going in there thinking, all right, we're just going to rock this out and outstat him and make my feints worth value, and the game got to exhaustion, and I swear to God I was going to lose if it wasn't for... I had one last imagination against Excalibur, and I was at 7 health, and I knew if I can imagine it, I'll be all right. And I just got lucky on which card I chose.
To be fair, the problem was partially mine. I actually could have won looking back, because if you notice, you had 1 health left.
I believe it.
I had 2 attacks left. Yeah, I had 2 attacks. They both could have reached a value of 6. I had an Excalibur, 2 Command of Storms, a Bewilderment, and a Noble Sacrifice. Then somehow I thought you had 2 things left, so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go for the big attack. If I had just gone for the 2 attacks, like I originally thought of, I would have won.
Yeah, no, I absolutely believe you.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the closest game of Bigfoot Arthur I've ever seen, and it was.
Yeah.
I was shaking in my boots, to say the least. The least.
the only way you could have been exempt from the curse is if this was your first tournament. So Green Tiger and Dream Carver, this was their first one, and so they didn't face the curse, but every single person who joined Defender Resolves first, and this wasn't their first tournament, lost their very next
fine
match.
Print of the curse, of course.
Yeah. How could we forget us? How could we? The terms and conditions of the curse are just. We just accepted them. We didn't read them. Actually. My apologies.
I mean, I like that plan. Like, step 1, start a podcast. Step 2, find out it's cursed. Step 3, win tournament games. Question mark, profit. Like,
yeah,
that was the grand plan, right?
I think that this plan could have worked a lot better and could have been said to have done so much more if Mike or I performed higher in the tournament. As is, we're like pretty middle of the pack, I think.
Did Tony end up beating both of y'all?
Yep. Yeah, he sure did. Yeah, he did. He did indeed. Yeah, it's not a sore spot for Mike or I at all. Not even a little bit.
Okay, good. I'm glad I brought it up then.
We're super happy for our friend Tony, who didn't want to join the tournament. We bribed him to join the tournament, and then he beat us both in the tournament.
To be fair, I'm gonna asterisk his win. I didn't get to play my last round, and if I would have won my last round matches, if I would have won them, if we played them, which I could have lost them, I would have outperformed him because of my tiebreakers. We did the math on it, and I think I would have been like 1 spot ahead of him or 2 spots. I think it was 2, honestly. But because I didn't, and we went 1-1, or if I would have lost my match, which is very possible, I would have even been worse. But I'm now like 5 spots under him, which is totally fine. And the worst part is he doesn't even want to play again. I hope you're listening, Tony. You need to play again.
Yeah. Defender Resolves first. We do the math, and Mike could have taken it. So now, but yeah, Tony's like, I don't want to do that again. It was grueling because he had. He unfortunately had 1 or 2 matches where he played like 2 or 3 games, and it went for 4.5 to 5 hours. So, yeah, I mean that's a lot for your first tournament, and especially since we bribed him to do it. We were like, "You have to get on here. You're so skilled. You have to play," and we got him to do it. And then he kind of ran into that, which didn't leave the best taste in his mouth. But by the end of it, he had like 2 or 3 really like nice, is what he said, competitors in a row. And so, like, he ended the tournament definitely a lot happier than he started it, I think.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know. You wouldn't not to completely circle back, but I think that does bring up a pretty good point about how grueling and long the matches can be already to add a pre-pick ban.
Right.
I would still be for it, but I'm also for adding match timers. And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that this isn't to my advantage. I play better under pressure. I play better with quick thinking, quick-witted things. Zero will beat me every single time if it comes down to exhaustion and he's mathed it out, because I'm not that good at math. But if I can grab, Bruce Lee and get some lucky cards in there, like I could take down Zero. That was my. That's how I took down Bug, was being way too aggressive with Yanenka. Just way too aggressive. So I think that if you instituted turn timers, that might help alleviate some of that, which could also encourage more people to play. Because a 7-week Swiss format with games that can go up to 4 hours, like, that's a lot even for us who eat, sleep, and breathe Unmatched. Like, I literally play Unmatched in the store and sell it like it's my job. And it was a lot for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great point, and we're on the topic, so we may as well talk about it. The timers, Chad, they had them for the finals, match when you played. Bake is shaking his head because there were a few moments I saw
He should be.
where Bake. There are a few moments where Bake.
That
There are
was
a
the
few
best
moments-
response
I'll let
ever.
Chad go, and then I'll give my side. Okay, how about that?
All right, Chad. What do you think about the timers?
Honestly, I'm super happy that they decided to go with them. I think I really do have a hard time. As I mentioned, new parent, right? Really hard just to just find that much time to carve out. And if I sit down for 3 games, let's say I carve out an hour for each, and plus some for pick band, 3.5 hours is kind of what I allotted. If it goes to 4.5 to 5 hours or whatever, I mean, that's just too much. Super happy that they implemented the timer, especially in, the top 4, which are best of 3, but especially for best of 5, because that, can have a tendency to go longer. I will say there definitely was. I'm not bitter at all. I still think I made the right call at the moment that I did to summon a clone to protect myself from him, and it came down. I ended the game at -1. So if I hadn't made the clone, I would have ended the game at 0. So it would have been the exact same thing. But super high stress situation. I felt I played pretty quickly for most of the game, taking maybe a few turns that were slow. And then, it's coming down to a critical decision. So I sit down and I'm starting to math out all the scenarios, figure out if I have a win condition, what that looks like, all this stuff. And as I'm sitting there doing it, this timer flips. And I'm like, oh, great. Okay, so I'm start thinking. And then, it gets moved over and hovering on my thing. So I make a clone, I maneuver, right? And I go for it. And at the end of the day, as I mentioned, I think it was the right decision. So it didn't rush me into a bad decision. I think the only thing that let a tad bit of a sour taste in my mouth is the previous turn immediately before Zero had taken a maneuver and took so long figuring out exactly where to position her. She was like, I'm going to leave her here. And then I'm like, okay, you good with that? And he's like, no, I'm going to move her here. And it was totally fine on my end, but not seeing the timer flip at all for that last part of the maneuver. And then I'm sitting there mathing it out, and it's like, boom, flipped over. So I do, and I don't hold Taylor super accountable for that a little bit, but
No. Lay into
because
it.
we can't get
A little bit.
Because we can't get a third party for every game. If we do implement match timers, there's going to be we're going to have to come up with a solution that doesn't have that human element. And so, or unless, as I propose, we actually have Taylor sit in on every single match and go ahead and do that, which I am all for. So
seems like the only way.
Solutions I see, yeah. So, but if the human element is removed, I think no problem there. Yeah.
Okay, well, let me just start this by saying I will do literally anything for the right amount of money. So just, I'll leave my Venmo in the comments, Chad. Go to town. We'll see whatever price you give me. I'll convert that into matches to time. But yeah. So I guess to directly answer what you just brought up, Zero's turn before yours was the reason why I was getting so gung-ho on the timer, because I saw him do the hokey pokey with Little Red. He was like, am I putting her there? Am I putting over there? And I was like, oh, this is taking a little long. And my finger was hovering over the mouse to flip the timer, right as he ended his turn. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna monitor this turn a little bit closely. And so, yeah, I felt really bad when you reacted like that, because I was like, oh shoot, this isn't what the timer is supposed to do. And I guess to elaborate on how exactly it worked, going into the final stream, there was no set time limit allotted for turns. It was more left open-ended because there are definitely certain points in each game where the amount of time for a turn can feel reasonable or unreasonable depending on the game state and the character being played. So the TOs kind of left that time frame open into interpretation because it isn't really black and white. So my job as the host was to manage the timer. And basically how that worked was I had my computer open to watch the game and commentate on the stream. I had my phone open with the commentator Discord, so I could like get updates and communicate behind the scenes if I needed to. And I had an iPad open on the side with the timer app. So there's a lot going on for me right there. And I guess I could have just like had my eyes glued on the iPad the whole time, but then I kind of like lose the experience of what's going on with the actual games being played. And for the most part, most of the games being played over the weekend were completed in a very reasonable amount of time, or at least I think the timer kind of acted as a motivator for the players to play a little bit quicker, because there were a lot of games that, even though the games probably were closer to an hour in length, the pace of play felt pretty good. Just there were a lot of turns that just happened to add up, but I felt like for the most part a lot of the turns were very reasonable. So I forgot where I was going with this, but basically I'm saying I agree that there should be a timer on the stream. I think the way that we did it this time was a good start. I think it could be refined a little bit. I guess I'll actually ask Prospero a question now, because he actually commentated with me on one of the streams, and I'll see if he has any ideas on like changes that could be added to improve it.
Yeah, I was actually going to jump in, one, because I like to hear myself talk, but also because not only was I on the stream with Taylor, but in the Summer of Legends, I did the host job. So I was hosting. So I know, like, when you're sitting there trying to focus on, like, keeping the conversation moving, are we, like, oh, we've got some dead air time, can I pitch a question to someone to kind of re-trigger conversation and that sort of thing? I wouldn't necessarily put the job of keeping a fair and impartial timer on the person who's trying to keep the conversation going. And like, yeah, so the way Taylor was describing it, my only thought would be, particularly for the final. Now, obviously, as Chad was saying, like, it can be difficult. It would be difficult to do it for every match. But like the finals, the important games, having a person there who's basically their job just to do the timer might be a solution until we get something a little more, I don't know, impartial. Like, I don't want to say impartial, but like a stricter ruling with the with like an actual timer that isn't a person going like, let's hurry this up, guys. Like,
sure. Yeah. Jacob, we haven't heard from you in a while. How you doing?
Doing all right.
Yeah? What do you make of all this spicy timer talk?
Hearing the timer talk, there's a lot of black and white, as was mentioned, because like you got Bruce Lee, who's a solo fighter, so his maneuvers and then being able to move at the end of his turn doesn't take as much thinking as, say, Medusa, when she has 4 fighters to move, and then she has an ability that triggers at the start of her next turn. So the time to maneuver is just going to be different there. Like Taylor mentioned, it's that black and white. So getting a concrete thing, I cannot imagine the work that the TOs would have to put in to get. But in the finals where you have a big audience, and I think it matters more, what we put up there for this tournament, I think, is a good temporary thing to have. And as Prospero mentioned, someone else would be perfect for it rather than us.
That's actually a good point, Prospero, because I was talking to John Zero Skater about this earlier, and he said that the finals, the Summer of Legends finals between him and Joshua, kind of took forever because in 3 games he played as Invisible Man, which is just, yes.
Oh, I know. I was there.
Prospero and I commented on that one together.
Job.
It was a time.
He said that is a fighter that you just have to make a bunch of micro decisions every single turn, and it takes forever. But on the subject of finding someone to be the timer. I think if we could get Deadpool to be the timer guy for the tournament streams, I think that would work out really well. What say you, John?
Ryan Reynolds? It might cost us a lot of money, but
see, what's happening here is you're trying to bait me into starting a discussion about an extraordinarily heated topic, and it's just not going to happen. I've had enough of this Deadpool discussion. Everybody listening to this has probably read the pages and pages of Deadpool discussions and memes, and I wake up every morning and we talk about Deadpool, and I'm just so tired. On that note, positively, Calvin, Dr. Angelicus, I don't actually know if that's his name on Discord because I always just call him Calvin, but he put together a fun little Deadpool tournament, and Ethan, Green Tiger, and I were in it, and he just kicked my ass last night. And we were playing as a Deadpool versus Deadpool mirror match. I was at 10 health, and he was at 4 health, and I actually, Mike can verify this, I texted Mike. I had this huge lead on him, and I texted Mike, and I wrote, this guy is about to whip my ass in 3 minutes. I know that it's about to happen. And then it did. And then Ethan. So, again, kudos to you, Ethan.
Thanks. You just forgot to strategize the Devil v Devil matchup, which is a really important part of the thing.
I should also say that texting Mike might have triggered the curse.
Oh! Oof! Maybe. Ethan, it's not that I forgot to strategize. It's just that I played badly.
I mean, you had like a card that you see on my cards in hand, and you didn't bring back Hori Macro, so that's a little weird. I think that was part of the strategizing you failed to see.
It's a very polite way of saying, John,
also, I just remembered,
you played terribly.
That is a polite way of saying that. I agree completely.
But
yeah,
that's that's always
on, and I'm in the tournament.
Oh yeah, hey!
Oh no,
we're gonna
that's
have
true.
to follow up with our friend here in his Deadpool tournament.
Ethan, if you lose your next Deadpool match, I really don't want to be blamed for it. I can't. I accept no responsibility.
One second, I gotta check which one of you guys invited me, so I can blame. It was Mike.
Whoops! All right, now I heard Chad had a question for the panel here. What do you got?
Yeah, so just kind of looking at this, right? I think we have, is it 23 playable fighters? Is that correct?
It's 23, going to be 26. I think it's going to be around 40 at the end. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, all good. I appreciate it.
That's about right.
40 or so with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new maps this
12 plus
year,
4
maybe 7.
plus
Defender resolves first. We do the math. It's our new slogan.
That's going to be one of our slogans.
Anyway, just a ton of new stuff. So I just kind of want to throw it out to the right. If we kind of look at it, Zero, I think played, right? He played Medusa. He played Sherlock. He played Yananga. He played Bigfoot. He played Little Red. I don't think played, like, maybe just those 5. And maybe I could look more. I know Prospero mentioned maybe Achilles in there. We had talked about it, but when we strategized together for Pickpan, I know he avoided Achilles like the plague. But anyway, and I played probably a similar, cast with more Sinbad, Robin, and Bloody Mary in there. But regardless, I think kind of the top 4 kind of had that all in common, with maybe a few differences here or there. With this new tournament with 40 fighters, do you think we're going to see the meta for a tournament kind of evolve like that again, where we kind of get maybe the same 8-ish fighters at the top level? Or are we going to see, like, specialists be rewarded much more, like Chocolate Rain? He's going to have Wukong. Let's say he gets Luke Cage really well. Let's say he gets Daredevil really well. And he's just going to wreck with those. Or, maybe my Bloody Mary, and maybe I take Yananga, and maybe I take Bullseye, and maybe I just try and wreck with those. Or maybe Baked Goods still takes 13. He takes 40 characters in this next tournament. And just wrecks with those. So I kind of just wanted to throw that out, especially maybe to Prospero, who's kind of a character expert with Muldoon. do you think people that are more specialists will have a benefit for just these wider casts?
I was hoping someone was going to ask this, because, like, obviously I didn't have the best showing in this tournament or the last tournament that I was in. I really, like, hopefully we'll put to bed some of this ridiculousness that, like, I'm one of the top players. I literally won a 25-person tournament versus a 128-person tournament. I just talk a lot about Unmatched. I'm not that good at it. But that being said, what I am super excited about for the next one is between the Premier Tournament and the Summer of Legends, there was nothing new. Between Summer of Legends and Winter of Champions, this tournament we just did, there was 4 new fighters and 1 new map, and we already saw the meta shake up. Essentially, people are saying Bigfoot's not top 3. Like, they're saying Bigfoot's not big 3 anymore. That seems like a pretty big shakeup to me, and Medusa was left unbanned a ton. So I think that that's already a mark, and that's just 4 and 1. And so as you were saying, Chad, we've got a bunch of more maps. By the time we have the next tournament, we will probably have at least 10 new characters. And even just with the testing that we've been doing so far with the characters that we have, like I just finished painting up Luke Cage. I think particularly in this season of Ladder, he's been underrated up to this point. I think people are just now discovering how good he is. So in answer to your question specifically about specialists, I'm super excited about all of this new. And I think it's actually an advantage for both. I believe people who are more generalized, who know a little bit about every character, are going to have more options. They're going to just be able to, like, oh, I need a ranged fighter with ranged sidekicks because I need to keep them at bay. Like, well, I've got Muldoon and Yanenga. But if you need other situations, there might be more fighters that can fit in those niches. And having a general idea of how that works, I think it will be good. But if you are a specialist, if you play Muldoon into everyone, you're going to be able to surprise some people who aren't used to that matchup. And it's essentially what I did in the first tournament to get me to the finals. Was I found a way to play Muldoon that beats Bigfoot. And everyone thought Bigfoot was the best. I found that, and I was able to push up through before people caught on. And I think that with more characters, if you want to become the Ghost Rider main and vroom your way to victory, I did that just for Baked Goods reaction. You could get more surprising upsets because people might think they know how to play into Ghost Rider, but do they know how to play into your Ghost Rider? Because you just don't have that much time to practice every single matchup because there's just going to be so many that if you are a specialist in one, assuming it doesn't get banned away or pre-banned away.
We're not going to have that discussion here.
We had it before you got here. Sorry.
We did already, Mike. You were asleep.
I was asleep.
Yeah, we had some spicy pre-ban talk.
Mike, you might want to listen to your own podcast after.
Yeah, I'm going to have to.
We get off.
I'm going to have to.
But will maybe Mike be cursed?
Yeah, maybe you don't want to listen to it because then you'll be. That's an interesting.
I'll probably end up fuming, is what the problem is, because I have a very strong opinion on it, and yeah.
Very strong opinion.
I think you'll like the discussion. It seemed actually fairly balanced. People who were on either side were making points for the other side. I feel like there wasn't really a consensus.
Yeah.
And it was super civil because we didn't let Taylor talk.
Oh, perfect.
Speaking of
you know what? That's how you do
I
it
guess I'll
too,
just
by the
jut
way.
in here. Yeah. I will take a firm stance in this debate. I think the specialists are going to be no more. One of those reasons is because of the wonderful website that you contribute to, Chad, UM League. It is easier than ever to scout your opponents. So I think now more than ever, if people are taking the tournament seriously and scouting their competition, and they know who they're playing, they know who the heroes that their opponent likes to pick, like you shouldn't really be surprised when you see Prospero pick InGen, or Pom pick Little Red, or Tommy Elliott pick Dracula, or Chad pick Bloody Mary, or Green Tiger pick King Arthur, or Squatch. Ethan really likes Dracula. Mike really likes Bruce Lee. So like, you can know a lot about who your opponent likes to play. I just named almost everyone, or everyone in this podcast, one of their favorite fighters, which is subtle flex. But I think even with, especially if there are global bans, and like Sherlock and Medusa get like consistently pre-banned before matches, they're the big three because they have one of the best matchup spreads in the entire game. They didn't really have hard counters. I think almost everyone else now has hard counters. So I think Follower with pre-bans and kind of like a generalist mindset, if someone is open to counterpicking whoever you pick first as leader, and they are comfortable with a wide variety of the roster, I think they will do really well. So I'm saying down with specialists, and more variety will be king. That's just my take. I would.
You would say that, Taylor.
You would. You are the generalist.
I'm going to agree with him. I think it is.
I think it's a fair point because of, it's something Prospero said earlier too, is you can't know every matchup anymore. Or at least you're not going to have time to know them all before the next tournament unless you don't go to work, you don't eat, sleep, like all you do is play the game. So, I think that's a really big point in the generalist's favor. It could also work out for the specialists in a sense, but there's a lot going into the next tournament that, I think, you saw just with, like, to Prospero's point, like 4 fighters came in, and there were like a lot of people who were like, well, I don't really know how that matchup goes. Now, what does that look like when there are 10 new fighters, right? So, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of surprises with that.
Yeah, if we want numbers here, at the end of the year, we're going to have 780 unique 2v2 maps, and that's assuming the same map and starting position. So you throw that in, there's just a whole larger aspect beyond the 780 matchups.
Wow.
But even then, with so many, if you know what your opponent specializes in, like you could know that I specialize in Little Red, and if you pick Sinbad, my last win of the tournament was as Little Red against Sinbad. So just picking a hard counter doesn't win a match.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Knowing the matchup doesn't win the match either, because I planned into Zero's Sherlock. I built the Muldoon counter out, played it with Ben, thought I had figured it out, but he already knew it because he knows the matchups. Like, he already knew it and knew it better than me, and so was able to play it better. So in that case, the specialist who had played the matchup a bunch was able to win out over the person who just looked up the stats and developed a counter and played it twice. So I think that Taylor has some good thoughts there. I just think that there is room in this game, because I don't think there's necessarily, as people are saying, I don't think in general there's silver bullets. I think that maybe specifically there might be some matchups that, we all know there's matchups that are terrible, one way into another. But I think that you can play a matchup to the best of your ability, and if you know that character better, you might be able to throw those upsets and completely topple the stats.
Yeah, I can hit on that. My first match loss was a game of Bigfoot versus Wukong, and I think Wukong just destroys Bigfoot. It's really hard for Bigfoot to get in and do anything to Wukong, and I lost as Wukong. He knew what to do. He just kept up incredible aggression, which is what you gotta do, aggress with Jackalope, keep drawing cards with Bigfoot, and just do it there. So I definitely see that side of it too. I think, I don't know, I'm very curious to see how it does shape out. I just I feel like if anybody picks up a new Marvel fighter, I think they'll be in a good spot, assuming they're like, fairly good at it. They'll be in a good spot for next tournament, because I don't know how quickly people will be able to figure out, matchups that are good and counterplay, right? For example, I think one of the best counters to Yanenga is Bloody Mary, but she didn't really get picked too often as a counter pick, because you got to kind of know how to play Mary. So I would always take, Bloody Mary into Yanenga if I could, after Sinbad maybe. And that, I think I had three match wins because of that. But not everybody was doing that because they weren't confident with Mary. So I think even though we do know a bunch of counter picks, like I might know like this fighter is really good into this fighter. But if I'm not really comfortable with my Bloody Mary or whatever it is, should I actually pick it in tourney? And if you're a generalist, yes, I think, as you mentioned, Taylor, to your point, yes. But if people specialize in certain fighters, it can be pretty risky, I feel, to take, a fighter you might not be familiar with. I don't know. I'm very curious. I'm on the fence. I don't know what we'll see more of. So I'm very curious to see kind of how it works out.
To kind of add on to what you're saying about the generalists and stuff, I think anybody could pick up Sinbad and probably beat Yanenga. I think literally anybody could do that. So I think what people need to find out are what are those matchups, and then are they going to instinctively pick it is the question, right? And such as, I also think, I'm sure you guys touched on this while I was slumbering away, that Sherlock is going to have some pretty terrible matchups coming up.
We didn't talk about that at all, actually. What do you elaborate?
I can't elaborate too much because people's yeah. I think there are two Marvel characters that are released already. I'll let you guys speculate without me.
Well, it's Moon Knight.
Without me. Okay. Well, I'll let you speculate. I said I won't gonna answer this. Okay. Two characters. You know what? Maybe. You know what? Are we gonna go full circle on this? Maybe it's Deadpool. Okay. 30 unique cards. How's he gonna How's he gonna decide which one to get rid of? 30 unique cards. 30 unique ways to beat him. It's just, here we are again at Deadpool. As always, I wake up every morning. Everybody knows that meme, maybe. It's a little funnier, but...
When Mike and I put this podcast together, in the very beginning, I listed just 6 episodes we could do right away. And the first one was a Deadpool-centric episode, and we plotted it out, and I was like, that would be so cool. And now I'm absolutely not. We're never talking about it. We're never doing it. I never want to talk about this character again.
I think it's just the matchups are going to get more spread. I think as more characters come out, you'll see that, maybe Sherlock doesn't do too well into one, but then Medusa absolutely waxes the other one. So... Well, I think time will tell, and I think that Sherlock is probably not going to be in. Well, that's a lie. I think he's always going to be in the space that he's at, but I think it's going to be a lot less of a hurdle for you to, if you're a generalist, that I can pick these 3 characters who do well or okay into Sherlock versus the comfort picks. Okay,
devil's advocate though, if I only have 2 to 3 options to take down one character in a field of 40 characters, that doesn't, he's not easier then. He's still, what are you talking about? Okay, now I have 2 choices out of 40. That's not that much better. What are you talking about? And
well,
even
isn't
then,
that what we do every game though? Every match we literally go, you pick this character, I'm going to pick these 2 or these 3 because I know I can beat you with this. No, that's what I did with the Yanenga, and it worked out well for me. I said, I'm going to pick this character, this character, this character because you picked Yanenga, and for the most part, it worked. You can ban one of them, but I'm still going to get my 2 wins because you did this.
Yeah, but she's not the same thing as Sherlock.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but it's the same mindset is what I'm saying you narrowed your field down. If you're picking Yanenga, immediately my field gets narrowed down to 1, Sinbad, and then my field even narrowed, it just gets funneled in. I think it's the same mindset. I don't think it changes.
Okay, I could be wrong, but even the 2 that you're talking about are not the same. Like you said, you can pick Sinbad and just wax, right? You don't need to know a whole lot.
Yeah.
But that's not the same thing for the Sherlock countermeasures.
We'll see.
Okay. We'll see.
Trouble in Paradise here at Defender Resolve.
I don't think
From
it's a
the
trouble in
panel
paradise.
To be the peanut gallery, like, we've just kind of shifted. Now we're just kind of watching this unfold.
Well, thanks guys for coming on our podcast.
Yeah.
Good luck in your next competitive matches, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
That's gonna. You know
brutal.
what? Might as well just trademark that, because I think every tournament episode, that's gonna be said. Good luck in your next competitive match.
Oh, that's really rough. That's really rough. Did any of you guys sign up for Josh's competitive thing? I'm
did.
doing it.
I'm doing it.
Yes, Jacob, you said yes.
Yep.
Bacon's
think
I'm
nodding.
interested, but I've got a lot going on. So
Well, I mean, I think exhaustion
to
is
watch
kind
that.
of is definitely a thing at this point, right? Like you just
Like
played,
most late games.
right? You just played like 7 weeks of some matches. Like Chad, I know that you're like, hey, I just had a kid. I just played this game for 7 weeks. I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd love to play. I think it's a really cool format, and I'm very excited to see how it turns out. I couldn't commit to it at this time.
Yeah, understandable. Hey, how's being a dad?
This is a great podcast episode. Honestly, it's great. When little kids, like my sister babysits a 2 and a 3-year-old, and my family has a trampoline, and when they're over there, right, it's like, hey, Danielle, look at me do this. Look at me do this. Hey, Chad, look at me do this. And so I just want Declan to say, hey, Dad, look at me destroy Zero Skater with Bloody Mary. I just can't wait for that moment as a parent,
That's the dream.
It's going well, and I just can't wait, that's what I'm saying.
You'd love to see it. Well, congrats again. It was really cool that you still like plowed through the tournament as a newborn dad. It's pretty cool. Jacob, what's up?
What's up?
I don't know. My guy's over here musing. I just thought I'd pick on him. Well, we have crossed the hour mark, so I think this is a good time to wrap it up. I think we've had some really fun discussions and some not so fun discussions, but hey, that's what happens here on Defender Resolves First.
You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, I mean, you could come on expecting to have a really nice, like, low-key time and then get told that your podcast is the reason that the majority of your guests lost their next match. So, sorry, guys.
You could also come onto our podcast and only have a host for half the time, a co-host half the time, and then him show up midway and just bring up old memories that we just tried to bury.
It's good. It's good. It's all a good time. Well, we're really glad that you guys all came back. We loved having you on the first time. I mean, we're still new at this. This is only the 6th episode, so you guys are integral to the success of the podcast, having been on our first 5 episodes. Really, it's because of you guys that people are listening and people want more. So, thank you. And
You're welcome, John.
Yeah. And I guess good luck in your future competitive matches. No. As I like said, as I
what happened?
As I said,
Yeah. Here's going to be the question, though. One of us is going to end up as a team captain, and then we're going to draft everybody that was here.
Yeah.
And then we're going to end up losing all our games because we were all on the podcast in Josh's tournament.
Oh,
it's going to be
goodness.
great.
You hate to see it. No, but honestly, just looking at all your faces and having this discussion today, I feel #blessed. So I'm really glad.
#blessed.
Yes. Mike, I guess I can't give it to you because you weren't here for the first half. I'll wrap up. I got this, Mike. Don't worry. I'll take us home.
Sounds
So, all right. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us and everybody listening. As mentioned earlier, tomorrow you will get episode 2 of the Winner of Champions tournament wrap up. So we're titling that episode 6.2. As opposed to doing one 3 to 4 hour long episode, we split them up into 3 episodes across 3 days. So this is 6.1. 6.2 will hit your ears tomorrow. We're going to talk to some new people, some exciting stuff. We got, well, I won't spoil it. We'll tell you. And then the day after that, we've got the tournament organizers, and they're coming on, and that'll be a really fun roundtable discussion again to talk about how the tournament went, some things that they want to change, some feedback just based on how this one went compared to Summer of Legends. So some really interesting stuff. I'm sure everybody who played in the tournament is going to want to hear some of those observations. So, all right. As always, Mike.
Well, you know that the defender resolves first.
You love to see it.